What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with a preview for the Safeway Open. Salaries just dropped on DraftKings moments ago, but I've been spending the weekend preparing for this, so I think I'm ready to give pretty good insight on this week's tournament. But before we get to that, I have a few winners to announce. These are people who entered our drawing last week for a weekly subscription to DFS On Demand. That's my site. It's all the tools that you see here. Those winners are Ben T. and Jacob V. A special shout out to Jacob. I did a random generator to get his comment, and the guy that he wanted to play in the 9Ks last week was Sebastian Munoz. That worked out pretty well. So double dip there for you, Jacob. The pick did not qualify you for the win. It just happens to be that you got that correct as well. If you would like to be entered into a draw to win a week's worth of access to our Slack channel, all the tools that you're going to see here, here's what you have to do. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you like the video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so that you get these videos when they first are released. And comment below with one of these three golfers that you have to play. You've got to play either John Daly, you've got to play Tony Romo, or you have to play Bo Van Pelt. I put that out on Twitter, sparked a little bit of conversation. All three of those guys are $6,000. Bo Van Pelt has not played a PGA Tour event since the 2016 AT&T Pebble Beach. John Daly has either missed the cut or withdrawn in 9 of his last 12 starts. No better than a 65th place finish. And Tony Romo is at least the most athletic one of these guys, you would figure, but has missed the 3 cuts on the PGA Tour that he has come out and attempted. So let me know which one of those guys you would play if you were required to. On the audio version, iTunes, give this a 5-star review. Just say something nice about the show, and ideally leave me your Twitter handle. That's the way I'll get in touch with you if you win. With all that being said, I think we're ready. Let's jump into the Safeway Open. All right, Safeway Open, Napa, California. I was this close to heading to Napa this year for one of the rounds. Plans changed on me. I'll actually be at the Shriners next week. I'll remind you next week, if you're going to be at the Shriners on Thursday, give me a holler. We'll see if we can meet up for a beer. Anyway, this week it's Napa. It's California. This is Silverado Country Club. It's the North Course, par 72, 71, 7,200 yards. Does not play particularly long, because what you have are all these tree-lined fairways that are going to force golfers to hit the fairway and hit the correct side of the fairway. It's going to be something we will talk about more in depth throughout the video, but you can't bomb and gouge this week. You're really going to have to be accurate off the tee, which is going to dictate some of the decisions that we are making this week. Defending champion Kevin Tway. Previous winners, Kevin Tway, Brendan Steele won it back-to-back years, Emiliano Grillo, and Sang Moon Bae. All of those winning scores about mid-teens, 14, 15 under par. That's the number that we're looking at. It's going to play a little bit more difficult than we have seen early in the swing season so far. And I think that is probably all we need to know about the course. We'll get to the key stats, but let's jump over to the cheat sheet right now. All right, we've got 5 golfers over $10,000. This Safeway Open field, pretty strong. We've got some bigger names here. Justin Thomas leads the way at 11,600. It is a couple times in the last year. First time since 2017 that he has started his season here at the Safeway. He's opted to start the previous 2 seasons at the Century Tournament of Champions, and then he does, the Maui trip with the Sony. But here he is, Safeway Open. Last 2 times he played here, really stellar finishes, 8th and a 3rd. We saw him play well down the stretch of last season. 3rd place at the Tour Championship, even though he started with the lead. He won the BMW Championship, just knocked on the door top 10 week after week. The only problem with playing JT is, I guess there's 2 things you can consider. Has he knocked off the rust? Does he need to knock off the rust in his first tournament of the year? Historically, the answer is usually no. He has performed pretty well at Century Tournament of Champions in the past. He got a 3rd place last year. I think he was pretty poor, like 22nd the year before that. But then in 2017, this Safeway Open was his first start in which he finished 8th. So he usually comes and shows up like he's ready to go and he's prepared. The other concern would just be the fact that he's 11,600, right? It's a number that I'm not always excited to spend, especially when you get down to some of these other guys who are also in the 10,000 range. So let me see if I can cover them. Patrick Cantlay at 11-2, Adam Scott at 10-7, Hideki at 10-5, and then Sungjae at 10-1, who is the only guy who has played this season. Knocking on the door, I thought we were going to get that Sungjae win. Had me in my single entry lineup. Second, I mean, it wouldn't have mattered. The rest of my lineup was crap, but Sungjae goes out, finishes second. He is knocking on the door. The dude is going to win so shortly. A fourth place finish here last year. So I wonder how many owners are going to opt to go back to Sungjae at 10-1. He's playing well. He's got great course history in at least 1 year. We've seen him recently. But I'll tell you what, there's one guy here that I've already bet and I'm super excited about, and it's Hideki Matsuyama. So here's Hideki at 10-5. I'm hoping the ownership either goes up to Cantlay and Justin Thomas or comes down here to Sungjae, who we have seen play. Hideki at 10-5 is, I love it. Okay, so just look at recent form. 9th place at the Tour Championship, 3rd place at the BMW. His tournament history, I think it's actually a little bit better than this the last couple of years, but he hasn't played it since 2016, finished 17th, had 2 third place finishes the year before that. Here's something that I think is interesting about Hideki, who we know, and we say it constantly, how elite he is from tee to green, and he just cannot putt. I would like to submit evidence that Hideki has learned to putt. And I'm going to pull this visual up here, and I'll show you this. This is actually on my back end, so you guys have access to the round by round data. This is showing the strokes gained data on a tournament basis, which I will push an update on my tool for this, so you'll be able to look at it round by round or tournament by tournament. So I'd like to zoom out a little bit and look at this from a tournament standpoint. Here's Hideki's last, dozen or so tournaments. He's gained strokes putting the last three starts down the stretch. And then if you go back here, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. He has gained strokes in 10 of his last 13 measured tournaments. Okay? For a guy that we said isn't very good at putting, has been pretty good at putting. And if that's going to be the case for this season, Hideki's in for a big one because he's still just absolutely nuts off the tee, absolutely nuts on approaches. He plays well enough around the greens. I mean, the putter's the only thing holding him back. And I'm actually shocked he didn't win in that stretch of 13 starts. He had a bunch of top 10s in there, but that is a really good formula for a guy who we write off as a bad putter. He may have just learned how to putt. Moving down sub 10,000, Bryson doesn't do much for me. Molinari doesn't do much for me. I'm looking here at these 3 guys. Snedeker, Benyon, Colin Morikawa, those move the needle on me. So Snedeker last week, and I'll show you back on this tool again here, if I can pull up Sneds really quickly. He played pretty poorly last week. Still finished 45th. Obviously, the 45th place finish is not something I'm trying to write home about and I'm not super stoked with. But if you look at his stats, he played really bad. That was only the second time. The Sanderson Farms was only the second time in his last 15 starts that he has not gained strokes tee to green. So you could say Brandt just needed to knock off the rust in his first start since the Tour Championship. He didn't play well. You can see he lost strokes off the tee. He lost strokes on approaches. Those things don't happen too often for Snedeker, usually a really good tee to green player. He had a second place finish here at the Safeway Open last year. And if you go back, so he lost strokes on approaches last week. If you go back, he hasn't lost strokes on approaches in 2 straight tournaments since the 2018 playoffs. So that is, now at this point, over a year ago. So a very good ball striker. My concern a little bit is accuracy off the tee. I'm going to get to the key stats in a second because you need to be accurate, not necessarily gain strokes off the tee. There's a big difference this week, so we'll talk about that in a second. But Snedeker is at least a little bit appealing here, and I don't think many people are going to be that interested in him. I'll save Benyon and Morikawa for a second here because I want to just run through the cheat sheet and get over to the key stats. Kevin Na, $9,000. This to me is really interesting. I think he's going to be popular, but this price is really, really good. I mean, he's here between Ryan Moore at 91, who Lost in a playoff last year. He's above Lucas Glover, who missed the cut last week. I like Kevin Na here. So my big concern with Na was that he was coming off of that injury that he withdrew from the BMW at the end of last year. We didn't really know how he was going to react to that. I wanted to wait and see on the injury. Played really, really well at the Greenbrier. 14th place finish. Now he gets the week off. Did not play the Sanderson Farms last week. He comes to Napa, and the record in Napa is, one of the best. I mean, his last 5 starts, it hasn't been the last 5 years, but his last 5 starts are T37, then a 7th, a 2nd, a 3rd. Boom, boom, boom. Knocked those out. And then the start before that was a 15th place finish. So should have really good vibes here at Silverado. I actually think the last 4 are the only ones that were at Silverado here. So 37th, 7th, 2nd, and 3rd, which is a hell of a run. He would be a guy that I think you could plug into a lot of different formats that Kevin Na excites me a bit here. And then we can scroll. Some of these guys are going to pop up a lot on the key stats page. No, I'm not playing Brendan Steele, who is a back-to-back winner of this event. No, thank you. There's a few guys really quickly here. Where I just lost him. Where was he? Oh, Kevin Streelman I think is interesting. $8,300. I'm going to pop this back up. Unfortunately, Streelman, I guess fortunately or unfortunately, he had that killer final round yesterday on Sunday where he just, shoots himself up the leaderboard. But Kevin Streelman is an absolutely elite ball striker. He has gained strokes off the tee in 19 of 22 starts, 19 of his last 22, gained on approaches in 12 straight. The guy can absolutely stripe the ball. 12th in accuracy on the PGA Tour. He's better than that in this field. Unfortunately, I think he gets a little bit of a boost in ownership because of that great round that he had, and there was a little bit of conversation on him. I think he was, significantly owned last week. Not a huge number, but he was owned enough last week. And then he goes out, shoots a great final round, shoots himself up the leaderboard, wins some people some money. So again, I don't think he's going to be a super contrarian play, but Kevin Streelman here, absolutely trending in the right direction. And now what I want to do is jump over to the key stats, because this is what I think is going to be so critical for this week. So this is the key stat model for this week. If you are unfamiliar with this model, please go watch the tutorial. Please go watch, another week's videos. I'm so proud of this. I love the way this is coming along and the way this is proving to work out this season. So here is the Safeway Open key stats model. Again, 145 different PGA stats that are being correlated to finishing position and to determine which ones are the most important. And the most important stats, the stats that, they're more important here at Silverado than most other courses on the PGA Tour. 2 of them are birdie or under par stats. So birdie or better percentage ranks 4th here, which means only 3 courses on the PGA Tour is birdie or better more valuable. And par breakers is the same thing, also ranks 4th. So 2 under par scoring stats show up there. And then you have approaches, these are small sample size. These are probably pretty noisy approaches from 125 to 150, 75 to 100, inside 100. That's a pretty big range. That's a 50 or 75 yard range. I'm not, not super thrilled with those. But then again, it goes right back to par 4 birdie or better, par 5 birdie or better. So really going to need birdie bakers. And then if you look at the most common stats, which is what I really love to see here, again, birdie or better is up there. And then the second most important stat out of these is driving accuracy. So driving accuracy is only more important at 13 other courses out of 50 than Silverado. So Silverado ranks 14th in courses where driving accuracy is the most important. And what is to note here is that it is actually much more important than strokes gained off the tee. Strokes gained off the tee is 27th out of 49, or it's actually out of 50. So basically middle of the road. That to me makes complete sense, and I love that the stats bear it out here. And the reason is these are tree-lined fairways. Strokes gained off the tee benefits you if you hit it long, if you hit it straight, if you find the fairway. But here, if you're very, very long and just a little bit off the fairway, if you're in jail, if you're in prison behind the trees, you're in trouble. Okay, that brings bogey into play. So not only hitting fairways, but hitting the correct side of fairways becomes critical at tree-lined courses, which is what we've seen over and over throughout the years. So to see driving accuracy show up here and off the tee be one of the lower stats, I love it because it validates a lot of the things that we see week in, week out, year over year. So let's talk about these. Again, we can sort this field by strokes gained off the tee, but that is not the only metric I want to look at. I'm also going to look over here at this driving accuracy column. So if you look at this, Johnny Vegas and Cameron Champ, 1 and 2 in strokes gained off the green in this field, but they're brutally inaccurate, which can become a big issue. Cory Connors, if you want to go back to a guy who missed the cut on the number last week, missed like a 3.5 footer to make the cut on 17 and kind of scorned us all. Going back to Cory Connors would be pretty interesting because not only does he gain a lot off the tee and gain a lot on approaches, he's very accurate. One of the better players in the field. He hits 66% of his fairways. Abraham Answer also shows up on this list. So I'm kind of looking for a combination here between these two off the tee and driving accuracy stats. The best guys or the best studs are in this order: Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantlay, and then Hideki Matsuyama. Those are the 3 guys over 10,000. JT and Cantlay are probably like 7th and 8th in this field and off the tee, and Hideki is probably 12th. Streelman is here again in the top 10. So then we'll do this. We'll sort by driving accuracy. Now, these are the guys. Okay, Reavie, I'm shocked, has not won here. This feels like a perfect Reavie course, to be quite honest with you. He does almost everything well. If you look across his stat line here for where he succeeds and where he doesn't, leads the field in driving accuracy. He's great in scoring average. He's fine in birdie or better. The only thing that he's not good at is strokes gained around the green, and that is the least important of the stats this week based on the correlation model. It ranks 39th out of 50 PGA Tour courses. So if you're going to be bad at one thing, have it be the one thing that doesn't necessarily matter this week. So I kind of really like Reavie. Again, that $9,000 range gets me a little bit amped up. Here's a little bit of a value, $7,600. Nate Lashley is interesting, and this is where I think we really need to make a distinction here. Lashley loses a quarter of a stroke per round off the tee. It's not great, but he hits 75% of his fairways. It's because he doesn't drive the ball very far. He's one of the shorter hitters on tour. So Lashley benefits from the accuracy needed this week. He is one of the better birdie makers in this field. Actually, he might be the best. If you sort by birdie or better percentage, it's Justin Thomas, Matt Every, Nate Lashley. That's it. Those are the 3 guys. So benefits from accuracy, benefits from birdie or better, and he's actually been playing well. Let me pull up his numbers really quickly here. Go back to the cheat sheet. He is 70. Where are you, Mr. Nate? How much did I say he was? 78? Here we go, 76. 3rd place finish at the Greenbrier. That's the last time we saw him. Okay, so he's only played one event this swing season. It was a 3rd place finish. So that to me feels like a guy who's probably going to make a lot of my lineups, quite frankly, just because of what we're looking at here. Colin Morikawa, who I said I wanted to save, really, really accurate off the tee. He's a California guy. Went to school up at Cal, which is he's going to be playing on these Poa annua greens. Oh my gosh. That was difficult to say. Quite a bit in his life and in his young career so far. He's only $9,400. So there's some really interesting tidbits that I think we can take away from this. And I want to sort again by birdie or better here and just see who else pops up. You get some guys like Matt Every and Brendan Todd who, they make a lot of birdies, but they really don't inspire me much else. Patrick Cantlay I do think is interesting if I was going to move away from Hideki, because 11,200 does everything right. The last time we saw him was his absolute bottom of the barrel tournament at the Tour Championship. Not a good look for him. Thinking that he probably bounces back, but again, the concern is the accuracy. So if you look at Cantlay, he's kind of the opposite of some of these guys like Reavie, where Cantlay gains strokes off the tee in a big way, but he's very inaccurate. He does it through hitting the ball further than everybody else, quite frankly. So the fact that accuracy might be very critical this week is probably not a guy I'm going to target. While I'm here, I just want to look at the top guys. So of the guys over 10,000, the two best in driving accuracy are Sungjae at 65% and Hideki at 61%. JT is 60, and then the other guys, Adam Scott and Cantlay, 59 and 57. That starts to be the lower half of the field. So I just want to see where those guys kind of ranked here in terms of accuracy, because I do think it's going to be critical this week. So there you go. I think this is a great key stat week. I'm very excited for it. I will not be in attendance, but I will be next week. Don't forget about that at the Shriners. Looking forward to hearing what you think about it. Tweet me. It's at RickRunGood, or leave a comment below. Talk to you guys soon. See ya.